Hello and welcome to the Powerful Personal Brand Podcast. I am your host, Claire Bahn, and on today's show, I am very excited to be joined by Lindsay Paychuk as an entrepreneur, marketer, consultant, educator, speaker, connector, community builder, podcaster, and small business advocate. Whew, she's everything. Who turned $500 into seven figures. Lindsay makes marketing simple so that you can build your brand and grow your bottom line through marketing made simple. Lindsay, thank you so much for being here. Absolutely love the story of kind of really how you built it from nothing, bootstrapping. I mean, that's hard in
Thank
today's
you
world.
so much, Claire, for having me. I'm so happy to be here, and I can't wait to share whatever you think will help your community.
Yeah. Well, I mean, ultimately, I think, we have similarities, but also differences in the things that we do. But basically, you believe in the power of storytelling. So do I in building a personal brand. And what is one tip that you would give someone that struggles to find the right stories that they should share? I know that a lot of people struggle with this. Like, what should I share? Why would I want to do this? What would you share with them?
The very first thing that I tell any client that I'm working with, whether it's, a mentorship client or a consulting client, is to tell your story. So I really, really like to hone in on the who you are, what you do, why you do it, how you do it. That is kind of the first step, right? And I call that the bridge to transaction because when you are sharing those things and you are sharing them over and over and over and over again, people get to know you, they get to know your story, they get to know why you show up every single day and ultimately why they should trust you. And people want to buy from people, right? And so that's kind of the first step that I like to take. And then what I like to say to my clients also is you have to story tell to really complement and supplement what it is that you're teaching or what it is that you're providing because those experiences and those stories, that's like your secret sauce, right? Like no one can replace an experience that you had that leads to a lesson that could potentially lead to an outcome for a buyer or a customer or client, etc. So
Right.
the way that I like I like to get my people going, the way I like to get started with my clients also in terms of storytelling is I'll say to them, look back at your photographs from 3 years, 5 years, 10 years ago. What was happening in your life at this time? Show the picture and then tell a story as it pertains or relates to what it is you're doing now. Build that connection. And those are lessons that only you have. No one can type it into AI and get a story like that. And I think that that's so important for your personal brand to really share those stories and experiences because that's who you are.
Yeah. I mean, the other that I'm glad you mentioned AI because that's one of the biggest differentiators because AI is, I mean, it's just like devouring all of the content and, anyone can be an expert on whatever it is essentially, right? But yeah, they don't have the stories. I'm a former actress, so you know how when you see a good actor, like no, like they have ingested the story, right? It's not just lines that they're reading. So when it's your story, there's no way for someone just to like fake it. Like they're lying.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And I also would say it's funny, I made a post about this last week actually, and I just said like anyone can type anything into AI and spit out like jargon for any niche, right?
Hmm.
But no one can just fabricate a story that sounds real and genuine. Like you can read between the lines on that. And
Yeah.
I was telling my community basically like before you buy something from someone, click on their profile and look back at what these people have done and really look back at like what are the results that they've had. Have they done something that you want to do and you would want to learn from them? Like it's very easy to find this information. I just think a lot of times people get sucked in by messaging and whatever it might be. And then they realize that they've bought something that this person can't deliver on because they don't have the background or the knowledge or the experience to teach it or share it or help.
Or they kind of like Jedi mind tricked these people into thinking they were actually an expert. So I want to, because you mentioned something, and I find that it happens a lot. So you were saying that you're telling people when you go and you look at someone you could potentially buy from to do all these things. I find it hard for someone to objectively look at themselves in the same way. Like, if you're working with a client, I find that they often don't. They're like, "Well, why aren't I famous now? Why isn't everyone buying me? Why isn't this immediate?" And I'm like, Do you immediately?"
So, what I also tell clients, and this is something that I say all the time, like, if you were asking any of my mentees especially, I say to them, "This isn't an overnight thing, and this is a marathon. This isn't a sprint. You cannot build a business overnight, and there is no such thing as overnight success. What you see with someone might seem like overnight, but you don't know the 5, 10, 20 years and millions of mistakes that have gone into getting to that overnight success. Overnight success is very, 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 very rare. I mean, it literally is like non-existent.
No one can replicate that. Like, it's just not it's just like a yeah, it just, like, randomly happens, like a viral video. Why was it viral, you know?
Here's the other thing is and this is an easy question. This is I would say that this is a good question to ask yourself, like, is a viral video even a success? Because if it doesn't produce an outcome for you as a business, it all it is views, and that does
Yeah.
might not necessarily even lead to anything. And so you have to put in the time and the work to really hone your personal brand and build that trust with your potential customer, because when you do and you have something really good that you can offer them, it's a no-brainer for them to buy it.
Mhm. So one thing I definitely find, I mean, and I feel like we deal with a little bit of different clients. We deal with executives and things like that. So you have your executives that love to talk about things that they've done, and then you have the other ones that are just like, "Oh, that's so braggy. Oh, let's be quiet." You know, what? How do you have you also dealt with that when in the storytelling?
Yes.
Or
So,
that?
and I mean, I mainly work with women small business owners over 40. So, like, that's my mentorship and my community. I consult with bigger clients and executives, and I've experienced that in both routes, right? Like, I mean, there are just some people that do not want to talk about themselves, and they don't want to show up on camera, and they feel like it is so ick. And I would say when I talk to the small business owners, I say to them, and I hosted a networking event today, and I had, 30, 40 women in this room. And one of the things I said to someone asked me, like, do I really have to show up on camera? And I was like, you really should. I said, I'm not going to sit here and tell you have to, because you don't have to do anything. But when you start putting yourself in front of people and you share things, you don't have to brag about it. You can be subtle in the way that you share. I mean, I share that I built a business from nothing to 7 figures and I sold it. That's not bragging, that's the truth, and that gives me the credibility to do what I do today. And so find that thing, that allows you to really hone in on your area of expertise and why you are able and capable of doing what it is that you're setting out to do for your customers. Like, what is that thing that makes you different? And that's not bragging, it's sharing something that, to your point, is a fact.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, because I've definitely seen resistance to people wanting to be on video and things like that. And if like for us, like if you are a PR client, you have to be on video. There's no way I need you to be on video. Um, and yeah, there's some real reluctance around it, and kind of like the reluctance and sometimes the perfection the to put in the work. Like they're either scared of perfection or about scared to be putting in the work. Yet they're like, "I love what Mel Robbins is doing. I love what," and you're like, "You think that was just like did she just walked in there and winged it?" No. Like, I find that sometimes there's a lack of I don't even know what the term is, like, I don't even know what the term I'm looking for, but where they can actually they're like, "I can judge you this way, but I don't see this in myself."
What's interesting too about what you just said, about you made a comment about like perfection. And the other thing that I tell people all the time, and I don't even have to tell them, you can look on either of my Instagram accounts. The best videos are the ones where I'm not wearing makeup, where my hair is messy. Like last week I did a live and I was like, I'm doing this from outside because I have to wear sunglasses because I have no makeup on. And 5 people mentioned it to me today at my event. Like, those are things that are real,
Yeah.
and so it's, it's like even, like, to your point, like, Mel Robbins has had years of media training and, I mean, that's so it feels real, but it's
But not
very
only media training, but she's done it so often that she can see herself and be like, I'm going to fix the little things that I've seen over the last 10 years of me doing videos. And that's
feels now.
powerful. Yes. But I feel like, so yeah, just you said it earlier where they're like, well, I want to be Gary Vee today. I want to be Mel Robbins today, not the messy they were 10, 15 years ago to get to today. And I think that's an important thing when building your personal brand, that it's compounding, it takes time, and it's not immediate. And that's actually good because, like, when you first get out there, you don't have 10 million followers. Thank God you can make all the mistakes.
And messy too makes you approachable. I mean, I think like the biggest compliment people give to me is when they meet me is they're like, "Oh my god, like I feel like I know you and you're the same in real life as you are on your Instagram." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." Like I mean, I show up as me, and if I am not in the mood to share something or be on camera, I don't because it comes through as contrived and I don't
Right.
want to. I want like they can approach me.
Yeah. I've had someone say to me, they're like, "You look exactly like you do in your videos." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't believe in filters." I do have makeup on, but it's like, yeah, this is how I look.
Yeah.
So it is so important. I actually had a business coach that I worked with. I quote this all the time because I absolutely love it. Imperfect action trumps everything else.
Yes.
And that's what you said. I've got this idea right now. I don't have makeup on. I'm just gonna do it. Because it's gonna leave, the moment's gonna be gone, the feeling and passion I have is gonna be gone because it's just going to. Yeah. So,
100%.
yeah, I love that. It's such a important thing. So another thing that you have talked about, you believe in showing the behind the curtain. I call it behind the scenes, moments to build authentic connections. So, what are so examples of that, like that behind the curtain moment?
I think it's really important to show people that you're not perfect and that you deal with the same situations and hurdles and pain points, especially as the community that you want to reach, right? So like this is a for example, I I have never ever said or claimed that like selling my business was life changing in a positive way because it wasn't. I mean, it was, but it wasn't. Like I sold my company and it was really a not great situation. And I have always been forthcoming about the fact that it wasn't a great situation. It is just recently that from for legal reasons that I have been allowed to come forward and talk about it. And so I am and I'm talking about it very openly and very honestly in my newsletter, but I still never wanted people to believe that everything was perfect and rainbows and unicorns when I sold this company, and I was very upfront about it from the beginning, and for me, the positive was it's given me the ability and the experience to be able to do what I do today. So, right now, I'm taking people behind the curtains, and I'm telling them what happened, and I'm being very honest about it. That's a work situation, but I also share behind the curtain situations in my personal life, like every now and then I will hop on and talk about being a mom of 2 girls or a mom of a high schooler or a mom of a middle schooler or like, do you feel like I talk like in May when it's like Maycember, which I like to call it, like I literally was losing my mind and I was losing my mind on Instagram because guess what? Every single one of the women who follow me were also losing their mind with all the shit from back to school or not back to school, end of the school year. And it's like, that's a behind the curtains moment that the people who I want to reach can really connect with, and it doesn't have to be about work,
Right.
I mean, it doesn't have to be about work, like, I'll show the behind the curtains of, like, what I'm making for dinner sometimes or what I'm wearing or I mean, I really don't do influencer stuff, I don't like that, but every now and then, like, I'll be on a video or and someone will be like, "I love your necklace," and so I share it. I don't gatekeep, I'm just kinda like, "Sure, like,
Yeah.
whatever, here you go." And so that's kinda like the behind the curtains that I like to share because I like people to get to know me. I want them to feel like when they see me in the grocery store, they can come up to me and say, "Oh my god, I saw your video about whatever," or "I'm reading that book too," or "Do you recommend that?" or whatever it might be. And they do
Yeah. Yeah.
every day.
I
Right? Kids hate going out with me.
Yeah. No, I think that's such an important distinction. I what did do, the whole influencer thing for a time, and yeah, you had to have the perfect photo. You had to do it was in the time of photos for all the reels, and I think that the good thing about reels is that you can kind of show the more candid moments, you can be more real, and I think the influencers and people and business owners that I see really thriving with this are the ones that do it really well, the ones that are just kind of balancing yeah, like, helping people solve their problems and do that sort of stuff, but also, yeah, balancing that, "Hey, I'm real, this is a real life thing that's going on," and so many people everyone's living their life, and I think for me, I really love it because sometimes you're just, like, seeing all these people that go on these fancy vacations all the time, buying, like, everything, you're just like, "I can't relate to you right now because 'cause I'm, like, working freaking hard." And I'm gonna do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you're just like, it's too the perfection is too much.
It's interesting that you say that because I especially when I'm working with clients, like, they'll say to me, "Oh, I wanna do something with, like, influencers." And I'll say, "No, we're not gonna do influencers," and there's nothing wrong with influencers, but I'll say, "We're gonna find some influential voices that are in your space." And so
Yeah.
it's not necessarily people who are, like, holding up a water bottle with an affiliate link or holding up a shirt with an affiliate link. It's people who have influence in the niche and who people already trust, and it makes sense to work with them
Right.
versus it, like, being paid to work with someone.
You don't care. Like getting a Kardashian to do something. Like,
Right.
"Okay, pay me $1,000,000, sure. Buy these," you know?
Oftentimes, if it makes sense, the
Yeah.
person on the other end will do it just because they want to, and they want to be able
He may already
PR, yes.
that's a great point. I love that because yeah, can you is there ever a point where the behind the curtains is TMI?
Yeah, I have boundaries and guardrails. I mean, I don't talk about certain things online. And that's like those are things that like and this is something too that I work through with all of my clients. Like I make them make a list of things that they would be comfortable talking about and not comfortable talking about. And I say like you have to really stick to this. And and it helps. Like so like
Yeah.
I don't talk about politics. I don't talk about politics. I used
Me neither.
I used to, like, back in the day when I had my first company, I used to. I do not talk about politics, and it's something that, I'm very firm on. And, and there are times that I wear an advocacy hat as well, and politics comes into play, and I do not talk about politics. I won't everyone thinks I voted for everyone because I don't talk about it. So, that's one of my guardrails. Also, another one of my guardrails is I don't talk about my kids' personal lives, ever.
Mm,
Ever. If they ever said to me, "You could share this," or "This happened and you should share it so other people could learn," maybe I would, but honestly, I don't know. And more now, I don't even share them without asking permission to share a picture. A lot of times when I share pictures of us, it's, like, from behind or, like, I really don't even share them very much anymore. But
yeah,
I have internal boundaries and guardrails, and that's what I know not to share, and I think it's what you're comfortable with, and there are people who are
exactly.
very comfortable sharing everything and, like, so but, like,
Yeah,
for me, I know I also know where my bandwidth lies, and I know that if certain topics, if I share, it it will, like, explode, and I will then have to deal with it, and I don't wanna deal with it, and so there's that piece of it too.
yeah. I think that, because we do have clients that sometimes, they're do political things or they are talking about economics and things that are kind of aligned with political things and or just like straight politics, and I'm like, just so you know, when you take a stance there could be stuff that comes at you and you need a thick skin if you're going to jump in this pool, and that's just the reality of it. And I mean, if that's what you want to do, but you can't be like, oh no, later, like, I advise you that pool is gnarly. And if you wanna jump in it, you better know what you're getting into, and I think that just kind of knowing that, like, yeah, they're just I mean, I grew up in a household where it was like, we do not talk about politics, religion, or money with, like you know what I mean? Like, you just, like, do you not you're the small talk, you do not talk about that. And, so, yeah, it's an sometimes I find it hard because you were mentioning, I bought my business from this to that. Sometimes I have a hard time because I was told we don't talk about money.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I don't share the, very specifics about the sale of my company or got the dollars. I don't because no one needs to know. Like, I'm happy to share how it was framed out and what happened and that kind of thing, but, like, I don't need to share the dollars behind it. That's like a no one needs to know type of thing. But it's
And it
I
can change, right? You can be like just as you said, like, things can kind of if it feels right or in the moment, you can change your mind. I always say that to people too. It's like when you're building your brand or you come up with your personal brand statement, it's not set in stone. Like, you can change it and you
well,
change your mind.
and I do share that I'm a Jewish American woman, and I share that proudly, and I have no problem with it. And to your point, I know what I jumped into by sharing that.
Yep.
But what that's done is it's made it so the right people wanna work with me.
I think that's the key point right there is, yeah, I mean, I remember I think that if there's something like that that you are sharing, you are basically saying, I want people that this isn't an issue with you. And if it is, it's cool. You can go over there. 'Cause I don't need this issue. And I do think that that's important if that's an important thing for your life, which obviously it is. And that's a super great distinction. Um, and I just yeah, it's whatever decision you make, it's the decision you make, and you have to kind of be willing to live with whatever happens after that.
Of course.
So just kind of know what you're jumping into. I think with anything, yeah, whether it's sharing something with your children, sharing a photo of your children, I always just say it's up to you what you feel comfortable with, but just realize you can't really take it back.
And here's the thing too, it's if you share something, it's also staying true to your ideals, right? So, like, I shared I talk about being Jewish. I'm an advocate in the Jewish community. I had a potential client who it was my biggest contract after I sold my company, and right as we were about to sign it, the client had a celebrity face, and the celebrity face came out and, made some very anti-Jewish there were some anti-Jewish remarks, and I was dying inside, obviously, but I was basically like, "Okay, I cannot take money from this person because that compromises my values and my integrity, and I won't do it." And, like, what if, like, I were to work for and the brand I loved, but I was like, "What if I were to work for this brand and then someone finds out and they share that I'm taking money from someone who hates Jewish people, but I'm advocating for Jewish people?" It doesn't make
Right.
sense. It doesn't make sense. You have to stay true to your ideals and to who you are and how you present. You cannot be one thing online and then do something else behind the scenes. And that's really important for your personal brand and your integrity as well. And I walked away from a very large five-figure contract that was, it was going to be work that like was so easy for me. It impacted my family.
Well, the important thing there is that, your people will come to you.
100%.
And because I definitely have dealt with this when in coaching and all this sort of stuff is like a lot of people are like I kind of have to please everybody. I have to do it everything, and I'm like not niching. I'm not kind of being specific about who my people are because if you're not specific about who your people are, how do you know what stories to tell? It's all vague and wishy-washy, and ultimately, if how you deliver your stuff or what you say, who you say you are, what your religion, whatever, and if that repels at somebody, then you're like, "Good." Well,
Can I tell you something very interesting about that? After October 7th, when I spoke up for the Jewish community, my mother is a typical Jewish mother. She was like, "Oh my god, like, is this gonna affect your business?" Like, oh my like, so worried. My business exploded and has
mm,
never been better because, to your point, the right people have gravitated towards me, and in both my mentorship and my consulting, like, I have 2 huge consulting projects with Jewish organizations, and I have a ton of mentees that wanted a safe space. And
Yes.
so I I would and I all the hate in the world can come my way, and I do not regret it because I have found the right people, and the right people have found me because I've been true to myself.
Yeah. Someone that I've actually had on my podcast, her group is for Christian women. She's in the South, and she's very, I mean, the stuff that she does could be for anybody, but she's very specific about who her people are. And again, it's been very specific because there are people, they're just like, oh, but you kind of, we're more, I don't know, we have more similarities, whatever it might be. And yeah, they gravitate towards her, and that's
And
been a big thing for her. So yeah,
and
I
I
can
don't
see that.
only work with Jewish people. There are so many women that are not Jewish, but, like, they share the same ideals, and they share the same kind of respect, and they you know what I mean? And they have no issues with it, and as no one should, but, like, but they do in today's
Right.
world, and so, but it really has been eye-opening as we're talking about personal branding. It's been very eye-opening to me to really come into my own and how that's parlayed across the many parts of my life.
Mhm. Well, because I think that it's important. Like, I actually work with a client who advocates for people being outdoors, like African American people being outdoors, which is a very specific thing. And she's very inclusive. She says she has people of all races that join her groups and do her things, but she's like, I'm never going to take my eyes off the prize because that's the my goal is to make sure that African American people get outside. If people of other races and other they want to join my stuff, happily, but I can't the mission is still there, which is
Yeah.
critical for her. And I think that's an important thing because someone might say, okay, well, this is where you say this is your mission statement, but it doesn't necessarily turn off people from joining your whatever you're doing because you say you're Jewish, because you say I'm trying to help African American people get outdoors. But if you're doing something that I want to do, I want to join it and you're cool, like why would I not? And I think that's a really important thing that if people are worried about niching down or being specific, that they shouldn't be because ultimately the people that do join whatever it is are even more excited,
Yes, and it's I
cheerleaders.
say something else about that. So, like, also within the last, I would say, year or so, I realized that most of the women who were coming to me, both on the consulting side and on the mentorship side, were over 40. That's who was connecting with me. I'm over 40, I'm 45. And so I changed the link in the bio. I changed our bio on Dear Found Her, which is my business, to read a community for women business owners over 40. And that also, like, it was like I put a stake in the ground, and that also really helped to grow my business because a lot of the women that were coming to me were women that just don't want trends, they don't want the bullshit. They were like, "Oh my god, this woman is, like, for me," and that's what you want, right?
Right.
And I get a lot. I get women who reach out and they say, "Well, I'm not yet 40, like, can I still come and can I still join?" And I'm like, "Of course, like, of course, but just know that this is a group that's mostly women over 40, and that's all." And we have some amazing women who are not 40 in our community, and they have taught us, and we have taught them, and, like, it's a very inclusive community, but to your point, it's like when you put that stake in the ground, you're really saying, like, "This is who I want to reach," and 9.9 times out of 10, that's who's gonna come back to you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that we say that we help executives and CEOs. We do have people that are not. And again, they're just like, will you help me too? And if we believe in their story, we believe that we can help them, then we will bring them on as clients. But ultimately, yes, it's kind of by putting that stake in the ground, saying, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is what we do. You want to attract more of that, like you were saying. You don't want I definitely have had people that come to me and they're like, they have no idea what they want to be when they grow up, and they're coming to you to kind of like fix it. And you're like, no, this is not what we do. We are like, for us, it's like, no, you are an expert. You are like, mid senior level, like, I don't have to tell you know what you know, and I am gonna build your brand. I'm gonna get you the press and things like that. You can't come to me being like, you know, "I'm changing my mind, I'm doing these other things." So that's ultimately you wanna attract your ideal person, and yes, really kind of being clear is so important, but it can be scary to a lot of people.
It can be scary, and I also think though, like, for me, it wasn't clear on day 1, right? Like, I started Dear Founder as for women business owners, and that was what I said, but it became more clear over time who was listening to me, who was asking for help, who was hiring me, and yes, it is a little scary to, like, put that stake in the ground, but when I did, it was like there was no turning back, and it was, yes, the best thing that I could have done for my business.
Right. And to your point there as well is that you said you were going to do this and you changed based on kind of how things happen. Same thing with me. And so that's what we were kind of saying before. You can say, okay, this is my path, and you can change it based on what actually happens to you and kind of the real world. Um, so I have one more a question for you about like a lot of people's like the whole internet world. We were talking about AI. Like anyone can be like, I'm an expert in this, and they can start spewing out content. So the digital space is so noisy right now. So what are 3 mistakes that you see people making, and how can they shift their approach to stand out authentically?
I would say the first thing I see people doing is copying everyone. I mean, I think like, people see someone doing something and they think that that's going to work for them. And I would say, don't worry about other people. Like, block out the noise. I mean, comparison is the thief of joy. And just don't worry about everyone else. Do you. And I think like what works for someone else isn't going to necessarily work for you. You have to really figure out what works for you. So that's the first thing I would say. I would say the second thing is, um, I would say be consistent. And because when you show up consistently, people get to know you. And I think one of the things that I see often in my mentorship is like people get going, like, and I'm not just saying with social media, I'm saying with like a newsletter or a podcast or whatever it might be. And they don't get the results immediately. And so they stop whatever it is. And then they have to like restart over later and really hone in on what is attainable for you and, like, pick that level of consistency and cadence that works for you, and you can always add to it. So, like, I do see people all the time, like, going gung ho, and they expect results in a week, and, like, that's it. And so you really do have to be consistent and not just in your messaging, but in your approach and just showing up. Uh, and so I think people are not consistent a lot. And then I would say the last thing is, like, don't worry about all the trends. I think it's, like, so crazy to me when I see people, like I was joking around the other day and I said, you know, trending audio and, like, Chat GPT and, like, viral hooks, like, those are, like, the LuLaRoe and, like, essential oils of our time. Right now, it's, like,
Yeah, snake oil. Yeah, I'll
like,
use it.
crazy to me,
Yeah.
and it's like, those things don't matter. The only thing that really matters is you, and you showing up consistently, connecting with your community, and really building a foundation for your personal brand that you can grow. And that's, like, you have to start somewhere, right? Like, I always tell people, like, you reach out to your, like, alumni publication, and if you get a piece of press, then you take that press and you say, "Oh, you know, the Northwestern whatever featured me in this publication, and here I'd love for you to see it, and would you like to feature me?" And you build from there. But that's how you build a personal brand. Like, you have to start somewhere, and so, I don't worry about, like, dancing and pointing, and people say that to me all the time, "Oh, I'm a dancer." I'm like, "You do not," really just focus on building a good, solid foundation that you can grow, and that's how you're gonna succeed with your personal brand and in your business.
Yeah. I think the key that really, if you just kind of summed up this episode and like the biggest takeaways, I've come like being authentic, sharing your stories. It's gonna take time. Trust the process and be consistent. Would you say
Percent.
that those? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
It's I mean, that's just such an important thing. I mean, and not only building your personal brand, but building your business as well. I think that it's so many people. I actually was speaking to a friend, and he was like, "Oh, like I have someone that working for me, and they're just they keep watching these get rich quick TikToks, and everyone's got Lambos, and like so he doesn't want to show up for work, and you're like, that's not real. He
It's
probably
never
rented the Lambo,
like, yes.
Yeah, and it's just and I think that that's kind of like an unfortunate thing, that everyone thinks you're going to get the viral video that's gonna make you a billionaire and all these things, but if you go back and you look at how long it took, Jeff Bezos and some of these people to build the business, to do the thing, it took hard work, dedication, a team, like, all of these things, and it wasn't quick and a magic bullet, you know?
You know what? I Can I say something else about that? It's very interesting. There was this a few years ago, this girl in like sort of in the mom space, and she went viral and like launched an agency for like mom creators. And
Mhm.
the issue was she didn't have like the basics of her business set up before she went viral. And then she went viral first. And like
Yeah.
I
Missed
see
an
her
opportunity.
well, but I see her struggling to like get clients and like do the basic things in business, whereas, like, you don't wanna go viral until you have the basics of your business and what you can offer set up so that you can actually respond to people. My guess
Yeah.
is that she went viral before she was able to even, like, say to someone, "This is what I offer you. This is what I
Yeah.
can offer you." And so I think it's really important that to my point, you build that foundation in your personal brand and your business so that you can respond to people appropriately, and it's not a missed opportunity when and if you do go viral.
Yeah. Well, and there's just really something about really knowing who you are and kind of going through some of the difficult things that just having time go by so you can learn about things that are happening, problems that happen that you solved, and when you go viral, when a ton of business does come your way, you're able to handle it in a way that keeps the business instead of, the death by success kind of situation. I think that's an important thing, kind of what you were talking about. And I actually tell people, because a lot of times people are like, okay, well, I'm trying to figure out whether I should build my personal brand or I should just do advertising. And I said, the problem is, and I've done this, um, I saw an ad, but that's really interesting. You go and you look at this company, you're like, I don't trust them. But now your ad was so good, I'm convinced I need this thing. So I'm going to find the best, and it's not you. So you literally put an ad in front of me to convince me that I need whatever it is, and I decide to go with somebody else because they have a better brand than you. That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, and I always tell people you cannot run ads until you have, like, the organic foundation of your content.
Because if people do a Google search, what are they going to find?
Nothing.
And yeah, and they're gonna find your competitor, and that's who they're gonna go with, and that is awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been such an absolutely lovely conversation. I've really enjoyed it. So many great bits of information for people building their brand. Thank you so much for being here. I know that you've got a program going. I know you have a lot of fun things going on. Where can people learn more about you, connect with you, find out about your programs?
Yes, well, thank you, Claire, for having me. This has been a great conversation, and I can't wait to have you back on Dear Found Her as well in a couple of weeks, so that will be fun. You can find me at Dear Found Her on Instagram. You can find my podcast wherever you listen. It's Dear Found Her, and you can find all of it at dearfoundher.com.
Awesome, and that will all be in the show notes, description if you're watching on YouTube. And thank you so much for watching. And I hope you like this podcast. If you have any questions for me or Lindsay, please drop them in the comments box. And I will see you on the next episode. Bye.